start with Mr. Mohsin, and I'm going to do a very brief introduction.
Thank you for like inviting me. It's going to be quite awesome.
Oh, I'm just again, it's this sort of, it's your enthusiasm. It's when you come into the studio, everything just is buzzing, and everyone just gets really excited about jeans, denim, and the history of it, and why we're doing all this. So I just find the enthusiasm completely.
Oh yeah, I've put together a 30-40 page thing. I'm really fast at talking, so I'm gonna go through it. But it's gonna
even faster than me. I'm trying to be a bit slower today.
Oh no.
Meet the materialist, the denim expert, Mohsin Sajid, creative director of owner of ENDRIME, denim and workwear company, visiting lecturer at the Royal College of Art and Ravensbourne, denim masterclasses, professor at Black Horse Lane Ateliers, head of design, in-depth finish and fashion knowledge, experience partnering with Far Eastern and European manufacturers, premium commercial fashion denim, British heritage, sports lifestyle brand, and it just says, get ready. He's going to blow your mind.
Get ready, yeah.
You're never going to wear jeans in the same way ever again.
Very, very kind. I'm just going to share my screen if I may. Hello everybody, my name's Mohsin, and thank you so much for inviting me to talk here. It's going to be, I'm a denim designer, and thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I've been a designer for like 20 years, and I also teach. So I do teach at the RTA, and I teach at Ravensbourne, mostly and always about denim and like workwear, and I really enjoy it. The last 10 years of my career, I've actually been working a lot with denim mills, which has been actually the most exciting part of my career, I'll be honest with you, because I'm having now to design, I design fabrics alongside my wife, who's a graphic designer as well, and we create lots of amazing stories for all of these mills, and we work, our biggest client is actually like sort of like Tencel, which is really cool. So we get to do some really amazing stuff that's, you know, much more advanced than some of the things that some of the other denim designers get to see. Anyway, enough about that. Denim is interesting, obviously, because most people believe it started in 1873, May 20th, when Levi Strauss and Jacob Davis patented the rivet. But obviously, we all know workwear and everything started much more earlier. And these early garments as well, they were duck in origin. They weren't actually indigo at this stage. Obviously, the indigo came in very soon after, but they were literally only for miners, and that's the important thing. But the problem that I want to talk about mostly is this: it's polyester. Obviously, this is something that's it's a virus within our fashion and especially denim like community. Nearly every single thing that we make has got polyester in it, and it's a complete disaster. It's a complete disaster. You know. We all know the fact that it's a credit card amount of polyester that's actually in like each of us, probably more. Babies have got polyester in them, and it's pretty much airborne, which is really bad. And we still don't really know the harmful stuff that it's actually doing. And we know many people are sort of infertile and all the rest of it, but the polyester companies and the oil-based petrochemical companies are being very careful to remain quite silent about this and always steer away from this and say, oh, it's not us, and make other things more of an issue. But this, to me, is the biggest issue. And to be honest, every single garment that's got polyester in it should have a tag like this in it. You know, the warning: this garment contains polyester for fiber, which is a sort of a derivative of crude oil, sheds microplastic when machine washed, harmful if swallowed. Every Nike, Puma, you name it, garment should have this in it, in my personal opinion. And every denim garment too. This is a slide that I stole off Michael Kinnaman from a Tencel recording that I did for him. That's just coming out next week, but I've stolen a slide. But this is very interesting because it basically shows the time frame of when polyester and oil-based materials came out. Only recently, but it's going to all finish as well. So, you know, we're going to be in a world of problem when we got so used to this, and then all of a sudden we have to switch to something else. So, you know, cellulose itself is quite an amazing thing. There's so much of it in the world, and we're only tapping a very small amount of it. And you know, the fact that if it's naturally fed trees or a sustainable forest, then it can be managed, and it's a really nice and clever way to get a material which is completely okay. And also, you know, the fact that the water usage alone is just quite remarkable. But this is just a little fact that lensing only take a small smidgen of what's going on in the bigger world of things, but there's so much of it around, and it's something that we should be looking into a bit more. But also polyester as well. And polyester and lycra are used quite a lot, and there are companies like amazing company called like Candiani who have made a like rubber-based stretch denim, which is amazing. So in other words, it's completely degradable, which is an amazing achievement. Some of our Indian friends have already copycatted it already, which is only it's a positive thing when other people start to look at it and start doing their own versions. It's only good for competition. But Candiani and Alberto Candiani are completely visionary guys who literally have decided to do this. And I know it's still in lots of younger brands, and I think even Stella McCartney have started to use this actual new denim, which is quite exciting. But these garments, as we know, they were made for one purpose only, for miners. And these early examples, which are found down mines, are quite remarkable to look at. But what's also remarkable is these early pieces were done with natural indigo as well, which they stopped in about 1897. So the petrochemical-based indigo started, and that's another major crazy issue, especially all the aniline and all the other harmful chemicals that are used to basically stick the dye onto the actual fibre, onto the actual yarn, is quite nuts. Cotton also it's got an extremely interesting rap over the last few years, and many more people are waking up to the fact that all the countries that grow it, their water tables are completely screwed up. And the fact that but cotton to me is something that should be premium. It's a premium item that we've been we're abusing in such a way, and with this artificial price that doesn't make any sense at all. If you actually look at the actual consumption of water and how much energy it is to make cotton, it's insane that we sell it for such a little price, and that's why it's grown in all these poorer countries that we can kind of take advantage of. But it's just very interesting that all the different ways of processing, and obviously me being a designer, I get to visit all the mills, and especially making garments and also making fabric. So I get to experience all the different types of machinery. And for me, it's very exciting when I come across a really old carding machine or an amazing old drawing machine, because these things can affect fundamentally how the denim actually looks. All these processes as well, only 60, 70, 80 years ago were actually done by hand. So for me, being a denim historian and a designer, I get to look at really old fabrics from the 1800s and even before. And these garments would have been made on the processes that would have been done by hand. And this is me trying to lift up a bale of cotton, and I got it off like 1 inch off the ground. So it's quite insane. I'm not that strong as a chap, but it's insane. It's a very labor-intensive thing. And as mentioned in an earlier presentation, fabrics themselves are very expensive to make. Nowadays, we're used to just buying for a fabric off the roll. But if anyone was making a fabric, they would really utilize it, and they wouldn't waste any of it, and they would really look after it. And that way of thinking has completely changed. Cotton, as we know, it also comes in many different colors. The brown cotton, for instance, is a very early example of that. The very first denim garment was based on a brown cotton. So it's very interesting to see many people are reverting back to these older strains with other colors, knowing the fact that what's the point of having something that you dye in another color? Why can't we eliminate the dyeing process completely and engineer a fabric or engineer a fiber which has got the color in it already? So this is one obvious solution that already exists. But I do a lot of cotton concepts where I research how cotton came about. This is a lovely slide from Michael Allen Harris, a denim historian. And this Gina on the right here, it's pretty much impossible to make it now. Okay, yes, you can make it. You can cut and sew. You can make the selvage the same way. But the cotton that was used here was either a Jamalchu cotton or Sea Island cotton. But because cotton has been genetically modified just like our food, it's very hard to get to the older strain or convince a mill or a ginner to go back to it, because it just doesn't exist. So which is a good and bad thing. Obviously, they come up with lots of different yields and things as well. This is me visiting a recycling plant. I go to a lot of recycling places. This is one in Pakistan where I happened to find a 1930s Type 1 jacket, which is worth about $3.5 grand, literally moments away from being shredded for its cotton. So the guys didn't know what they had, and there's a lovely mill called Artistic Fabric Mills that had it, and they were very embarrassed for it. But the thing is, there's a lot of amazing stuff that you can find, not down gold mines, but also in recycling centers. But the amazing thing is, having visited this recycling place, obviously it's coming now. Now it's becoming a lot more obvious. Now it's becoming a lot more obvious that basically we need to make sure that every fabric that we make has got a recycled content in it. Actually, I've always said for many years that Primark and the high street shouldn't be allowed to use virgin cotton. Shouldn't be allowed to use it. It should be banned for them to use it. So they should only be using recycled cotton, for instance. And there's so much of it around, and there's so much of it that goes into a landfill. But there's many mills now up and down Pakistan and all over the Middle East that basically are making sure that they have a shredding plant on site, and it's pretty remarkable. Like this particular mill, every single article they make sure that every single article they actually make sure that at least 5% or 5-10% of every article has a recycled content in it, which is quite cool. Anyway, so there's an interesting myth actually. Oh, I can hear some people talking. Do you mind like muting your self if it's possible? This is quite cool. So basically, there's an urban myth actually. So the early garment from 1873 that was a duck canvas. It wasn't a twill. Could have been a hem. Obviously, Levi's themselves say it's not, but saying that in 1906, in 1906 there was a massive earthquake in San Francisco, and they lost their entire archive and all the garments and all the historic stuff. So they don't know themselves, which is quite funny. But they're adamant that it wasn't, but it could have been, because if it was a duck canvas from that era, it most likely would have been hemp. So the earliest denim garment actually might have been a hemp, but Levi's are saying no to it. But I think someone will probably find it down a mine or something, and they'll do some research and they'll probably figure out it is hemp. I think it is. I personally think it is hemp. But the interesting thing is, in hemp itself has literally turned around in the last few years. Obviously, we got the it was banned in the early 1920s outright together with cannabis. And that kind of ruined its chances for many years. But we've been using hemp for much longer than any other natural fiber. It's actually the strongest of the natural fibers, and it's had lots of propaganda, mostly by the cotton people, which is quite remarkable. But luckily, in the 80s, we came up with a new cottonized version of it, which is quite cool, rather than the version of the wet spun that we've been using. But the benefits here are strikingly amazing, and that's why in the denim world, hemp is the biggest thing that's happening right now. Every single mill is experimenting with it. It takes 3 to 4 months to grow versus 8 to 9 for cotton. Practically no pesticides. Water consumption is marginally less. It produces so much more fiber. It makes you think, why the hell haven't we been using it before? And, little stats from Levi's as well. Nearly 4,000 liters to make one jean. 2/3 of that is just in the growing stage of cotton, so it's quite remarkable. Obviously it's got antimicrobial, bacterial sort of elements to it as well. But people don't know it takes away toxins from the earth. It takes away all the horrible pesticides, explosives. They planted it all around Chernobyl, which is amazing, to get rid of all that nuclear waste. And it's unbelievable for the amount of oxygen it produces. And 1 acre of hemp produces more oxygen than 25 acres of a forest. If you're going to have a new factory or a new garden, bloody plant hemp. Why wouldn't you? This is an early example of a triple pleated blouse that was found by that earlier denim historian friend of mine. And again, natural indigo as well. So it was always lovely to see these garments, especially ones that are found. This particular one, Levi's knew existed, but they never had an actual sample of it. They had their drawings of it from their catalogue, but Michael Allen Harris actually found this actual jacket down in mine, and quite remarkable. It basically it opened up the window of the earliest versions of a trucker jacket, which is quite remarkable. Very cool. Indigo. I just want to touch on indigo. This slide I always put to upset people, but this one, this is an indigo friend of mine. So it pretty much, this is an indigo friend of mine called Abu Bakr Fofana, and he grows indigos and that natural indigo farmer. He's got a farm as well of animals, but he actually dyes his animals sometimes, and he actually he gets the yarn from it and spins it again. He does it completely okay. This animal's all right. But these earlier garments as well were natural indigo based, as I mentioned. But the problem really is that many people, we've been using chemical indigo, which is obviously petrochemical based, for more than 100 odd years, and that's a real issue. And even people have forgotten the indigo origins. Like, obviously, we know that the indigo was grown and cultivated in the Indus Valley region, and obviously now there's more of a European perspective on it. Recently, that's come about from our friends at Candiani, and they've done lots of research, and they've actually made the oldest known fabric to this date, dyed with woad, which is quite cool. Instead of having an indigo warp, it's only got an indigo weft, which is really fun. And they actually recreated it last year, although they actually recreated it only last month for an exhibition in it's sort of in Italy, which is really cool. But indigo itself, it's remarkable, and as the previous speaker, and Maria, who's actually one of the students that I remember teaching now, it's remarkable when you do start to use it, but is it sustainable going back to it? Probably not. There are companies in America called Stony Creek Dyeing who've got lots of investments in scaling up natural indigo, but you need football fields of it, and it's not even going to scratch the consumption that we actually have. And so this is me using some natural indigo, and it looks beautiful for an artisan sort of project. But there are many companies that are looking at the future of indigo. So Hue being one of the companies that I know, and it's a bacteria-based indigo that they've done. It's a research hub. They've got backing from. They've got millions and millions of dollars of backing. So actually, it's going to be very interesting in the next few years, because there's other companies as well that are going into more bio-based indigo, less petrochemical based. So for me, this is absolutely the future, either this or some of the others that are happening. And it's positive that there's many other people exploring this new way of indigo. Because at the end of the day, we all love indigo. We love it. It's but the thing is, it's the petrochemical based one is just completely evil. So the fact that it damages the environment is quite nasty. And one example that's quite a famous one with the whole Blue Rivers thing. And I've been to environments like this in my 20-year career. I've been to environments where I'm a couple of miles away from the factory, and my noses or my eyes and nose are already stinging. But there's amazing solutions that exist right now. This is a Tencel new yarn that they made. It's a Tencel model with indigo-like technology. So they've done it in the dope dyeing stage, where they've actually dyed the pigment with indigo, which is remarkable. There's no crocking. It fades amazingly well, and every company from Candiani to Cone have experimented with this new type of yarn. And the great thing is, the water savings alone are 99% more than a conventional way of dyeing rope dyed. So there are some amazing solutions. Whether or not we can use a bacteria-based indigo to dye this little Tencel model, or even go to the other variant of Tencel 0.2, which is the lyocell itself. Would be amazing. So this to me is super exciting when you're already saving 99% of water by doing something like this. But we have issues in our denim world right now. For everything from stonewashing, from the sludge that we produce, from the carcinogenic PP spraying that we all use. And I've been to factories where there isn't a guy wearing a mask, and there isn't a guy wearing an overalls, and he's not wearing gloves. So this is just a lovely picture showing how it should be done. But these processes, they are in the process of being banned very, very soon. So, many companies are looking at other ways to come about and doing other things. And I consult for both of these companies here. They're both in competition with each other, but I like them both. They're pretty amazing. And Tonello, known for their big washing machines that now do laser tech, and then Genealogy, who are known for the lasers that also now do washing tech. So quite amazing. Both of these companies are revolutionary on what they're doing, and I do collections with Genealogy every season, and it's so goddamn awesome. And this is an early example of the very first laser garment that I produced for Levi's back in 2002. So this is done, so these processes aren't new, but they're coming into their own now, which is quite exciting. Metal finishes and buttons. This is a major issue as well. The chemicals that are used in metals on garments that we make. I know YKK and some other companies like Prim and all the rest of them are coming up with non-toxic versions of some of these finishes. But at the end of the day, none of these garments can be recycled either, because having been to a shredding place, and they only use literally the middle part of the jean where the leg is, the top part with the pocket and the waistband, they throw away or burn or put in the landfill. One of the solutions could be having buttons and trims that can be taken off really quickly. So these are some buttons that I developed with Javed Brothers in Pakistan with a screw-on button. Nothing new or revolutionary here, but it's a step in the right direction of what we should be doing. But also, rivets. You know, a rivet for me is what makes a jean. If it hasn't got a rivet on it, I don't really class it as a jean. Or that's me being like a fundamental denim purist here. But the thing is, I've recently come to the conclusion, obviously now, I want my garments to be like recycled. I want my garments to be thrown in a scrap heap or to be thrown in the ground or buried in the ground, and it to be to actually disappear. So here's an example of an embroidered rivet, which is quite cool. And so for me, it's like this is something that Wrangler did in the 1930s and 40s. There's always solutions in the past for doing things, and this is one clear example of it. So I've made a jean now that you can take the button off. It's got like embroidered rivets. It's made all with tencel or cotton, no polyester crap at all. So in other words, it can completely disappear. So my task now is, and it's always been for the whole of my career, is to always be transparent on what I'm doing. I'm one of the first brands to even list the fabric mill inside my garment. Also listing all the machinery that I use inside my garment, only because so many people ask me what machine is it hemmed on. What I got quite annoyed about it, so I literally just put it inside the jean just for that. But new techs for me that are coming through, obviously 3D knitted technology is coming into its own now, especially in the denim world. Whether or not, it's literally coming to a point where it nearly looks like it's not like knitted, which is quite remarkable. Not using thread and other ways of making garments is obviously something that we're also exploring as denim designers. And zero waste pattern cutting is something not new to any of us. But for me, it's like I'm now looking back at every single fabric that I've used, and I'm trying my hardest to engineer it so there's no waste. So this is an example from one of my classes of it's a guy called David here, who's very proud of his like lay plan. But notice how much waste is still in the lay plan, and he's done it on the fold, which is even another faux pas if you're going to be trying to save fabric. But for me, I've literally been looking at every one of my major garments that I make for clients, and trying to come up with solutions where there's hardly no waste now. Like the yellow, this is the first example of me trying to do zero waste on this jean. The yellow part is the only part where I've just there's a slight bit of waste still. But you know, and I put darts in where they're not normally darts, and it's a really unconventional way of doing it. And I did the same thing with a chore jacket as well. But these are just first versions of them. You know, God willing, I'm going to be getting to a point where I'm getting completely eliminating all the waste. And I had a breakthrough only a couple of weeks ago where I actually came to the conclusion now that I can actually design any jean in any width fabric and have no waste. So it's like an algorithm that I've come up with. So I'm quite excited to share that soon. But that's me at the moment. So I don't know if that was helpful for anyone here. I'm probably preaching to the people that already know. That's what I think. But yeah. Are there any questions? I think the natural indigo thing and a solution without a garment without cotton or polyester a garment without cotton and polyester for me are the future of what we're doing. We shouldn't be using cotton, and we shouldn't be using polyester, and we shouldn't be using petrochemicals, and that's my task in the next 20 years that I've got left of my denim career. Yes.
There was an extraordinary long question from Charles.
I know I didn't read it because I was going to put me off, but maybe you can like sum it up to me as you've had time to read it.
It might be easier for Charles just to read it out. There's such tiny text.
Mohsin, I don't want to fall out with you.
No, please, by all means. I like having arguments. It's all fine. I have arguments every day of my career, and it's good. Please.
Cotton gets a bad rap. Polyester gets a bad rap. Agreed. But personally, I think cotton is worse for the planet than polyester. And my main drive for that is we have 1 billion people on this planet living below the nutritional poverty line. So why are we growing textiles? I fully agree with you. We should be mining old textiles. We should be using recycled cotton. Just like all the synthetics, we should be using recycled polyesters and nylons. But yeah, I do a reasonable amount of work within denim. I was with David Hyatt last weekend on his Makers and Mavericks thing.
Yeah, sort of friend of mine. Yeah.
I see both sides of the coin, but my comment was, look, I know you're throwing a lot of dirt at polyester. Polyester is not pure, but I believe it has a role. There's
a role. There's definitely a role for it. Like I did this project with the MOD, and you know, there's always a role for these fibers that we made that are super duper strong, and we need them for firefighters' outfits and God knows what. But for an everyday garment that we wear, we don't need it. We don't need it. There's no need for it, and it should be banned outright. We shouldn't. Primarks and the rest of the world should not be using any of that stuff at all. And maybe a like recycled like version, but you know, there's so much evidence that all the energy that's used to make these like recycled garments, and we've made a whole industry from like recycling our waste. We should be having no waste from the beginning. So waste is a major flaw in all of our design sort of our processes. So for me, that's the stuff I'm going to preach now, and all the audiences and students that I teach hundreds every year. That's what I'm going to be pushing, and you know, and if I can get through to one of them and they end up being a creative director of a big company, then I've done my job.
Full respect. We'll continue this offline.
Yeah, please do. No.
I like what you're saying.
Take it outside.
We'll take it outside. Yeah. No.
But I just feel that someone should shout up the t'other side.
It's all good. I have a lot of love. I do a lot of polyester development as well, but I'm just not. Having been slightly brainwashed from being a tensile guy now, and coming to the conclusion that actually there's no need to do half the things that we've been doing, and even to the dyeing, and I'm very interested in the like mechanical stage of spinning as well, and coming up with newer solutions to eliminate lots of processes. I still love ring fabric. I love things to fade. That's the ultimate thing here. But if it can be done in the most sustainable way, without damaging our planet and our workers, then we should be looking at it.
Agreed. The dyeing is a massive issue the whole industry's got to get hold of.
Please.
If you think the yarns are bad, the dyes and the finishes are worse, I will put in the chat bar a link from the AATCC, the American Standards people, who now classify cotton as a synthetic fibre because it has synthetic dyes and synthetic finishes, and it's not decomposing. But I'll dig that up and put it in the chat bar.
Oh, please do.
And just to stir it up for everyone else.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful.
No worries.
Yeah. Mohsin, I just wanted to say, like I think we have so many things in common, because I'm also really good friends with the people in Candiani.
Yeah.
And we actually collaborated in some of the projects, like with you, to see if we could help scale up this kind of bio-based indigo molecule, like engineered indigo. And I was just thinking, like, some of the processes, for example, the way that Candiani dyes the yarns, that it then becomes not sustainable for them to use natural indigo, because for the parts from a pre-reduced substance, and to dye it on autoclave like we're doing on the batch, we actually use less resources, like less water and less chemical auxiliaries than we use in synthetic indigo dyeing. So, that's what I was saying before. Sometimes, depending on the angle where you're standing, or depending on the process and the machinery that you have, it is sustainable or not, even though you depart from the same raw material. So that's why sometimes it's just when I was at Candiani, and they were like, but for us we cannot do this because we have to throw in like a hell of a lot of color and like more water, and I understood that totally, but then for us it was actually a viable solution. And I don't know, I guess it happens with you too. We're actually working with the tensile model indigo solution as well. We are dyeing our recycled cotton with that. So I think there's loads of points where we could cross over, and we work with Genologia too. They are actually based right next to my house in Valencia.
Oh, there you go.
So been there like many years ago. So a pleasure to hear you talk.
No, I think there's no obvious solution at the moment. Obviously, we know that we're doing bad things right now. We know that we're doing bad things. So, the fact that so many people are looking at the dyeing solutions and the growing solutions and the fiber solutions at the same time, every couple of months there's a new development. I remember doing the tensile Modigirl marketing video. We actually did the animation for that. My company did, but it's just it's really quite amazing that it's so exciting now to be a denim designer, and just a denim designer. It's so exciting because every couple of months there's a new development, and it's like a race to make the most sustainable jean there is. But hemp, we can't use hemp too much at the moment because it's too expensive as well. You know, that's why there's no 100% hemp garments yet, because it's just too expensive. But the more people invest it, you know, Pakistan actually like legalized it last September. So if Pakistan have like legalized it, it means that all fast fashion is going to be hemp based in the next 5 years. So it's not a trend. We're heading towards this solution, and the bacteria based indigo solutions are definitely the ones to be looking out for, and supporting any, if it's fungus based or like bacteria based or whatever. It's very, very important to be supporting it, because these petrochemical companies are just, you know, they're panicky right now because they're realizing, but they're going to just throw lots of horrible facts and figures against all the stuff that we're trying to do. So yeah, but there's no obvious solution really.
Anyway, Will.
Mohsin, I think my brother's got a question for you. I'll hand over to Will.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually, both presentations were absolutely were fascinating, really brilliant stuff. So, I mean, in a way, it's a sort of comment and also a question. Well, question to both of you, I suppose, in a way. I'm super interested in the hemp stuff, and I think in terms of in terms of construction and stuff, that it's. I've seen there's a small place up in Buckinghamshire where they're making hempcrete blocks. You know, and they use the real crap at the bottom, the shiv, all the stuff that you wouldn't need. So actually, they sell the stuff to you, and they've got a license to grow the stuff. So I was going to ask you why it isn't everywhere, but it obviously is the cost, and I hadn't
it's the cost, but it's also the propaganda. It's, you know, we've all been brainwashed that hemp and cannabis are the same, and they're not. And that's mostly from the cotton people that have done it. So it's like, you know, go back 200-300 years, we'll all be wearing hemp. You know, it's like it's the most, okay, yes, it's scratchy, but there's newer versions of it, especially the cottonized stuff, and even Kandiani themselves have got a like cotton farm, like sort of, if you didn't know. So everyone is looking at it in interesting eyes, and there's a massive project that Chris Hewitt from Hewitt Heritage Fabrics is looking at as well, to do a hemp-based project based in like the UK, and it's not a small-scale thing either. It's like properly funded, but it's mostly the cost at the moment. Will but the more people grow it, the more people ask for it, it will go down in price. So yeah.
That's interesting. And so, well, it's sort of related. It was a question for Maria, which was that you mentioned sort of early on in your presentation that Albania are going to be growing their own cotton. Is that, I mean, in Italy, is that real? Is that a kind of serious, or is that just a niche kind of?
I mean, we do it with the intention that will be, you know, we will have an important production in Italy, but for now it's a big dream. Like it's becoming a reality, and again, it's with the intent of for it to have a meaningful, you know, production, a translation into production. But right now it's hard because we will be the only one. So we are really working with the farmers and the man that is like leading all this project. He was the one to actually create the spinning division in Albania, because it didn't existed. It was created a few years ago when he decided, instead of buying yarn, he bought bales of cotton. Just like loads of them. So they like started spinning it, but it was so casual. He always tells the story, and it's insane. So I really trust in him, because when he sees an opportunity like that, he just goes for it. And for example, we were talking about, you know, locally grown fibers, and for that project where I told you I was upcycling the rice water, we're using a linen that is produced like only a couple of kilometers away from our factory, because it's like from Bergamo, this linen. And actually we're working with Italian hemp as well. Like this is, I want to send you some samples, Mohsin.
Please.
This is like hemp in natural indigo dye hemp. And we have, I mean, obviously our sort of denim is more for shirt and is softer than Candiano, but it just would be good to have your feedback.
I actually did a really big hemp project in the last 2 years with Tencel. So we developed a 10-cell hemp variant, and we called it the Bast Recast collection, and it got released in April. And I made all the garments in my studio here, about 40 of them, which is quite remarkable, and it was all washed at Genealogia. But no, it's something that it's so exciting. So exciting. And also doing that was all based from a Pakistani mill called Navina as well. We did it in Pakistan only to be as commercial as possible. There's no point developing a really amazing fabric and no one can afford it. And the great thing is all these fabrics that we have developed have now been adopted by Levi's. So it's pretty awesome that we're doing stuff that's influencing the market at that lower end, which is quite important. But yeah.
And just to finish responding Will's questions, it would be in the south of Italy, so not north, because it needs that climate.
Yes.
I was sort of wondering, because you mentioned it in you were talking about some of the growing stuff aeroponically or hydroponically. Is that part of that, or is that a separate? Is that?
No, we were for cotton. It's not. We were in touch with a startup that is actually growing cotton in lab, and I think they were running a pilot with a major brand in the sportswear kind of market. So I don't remember if it was Nike or Adidas, but yeah, it was lab grown cotton. And that would be great. And Mohsin said, early on when I started my own projects, I was talking about naturally colored cotton. Mohsin was showing us the brown cotton. There's also green cotton, and I mean there's a limited range of colors, but I was always thinking why can't we not just engineer the actual cotton plant for it to grow certain colors? And obviously there's so many problems linked to cross-contamination of seeds and polluting the white cotton because it has the longest fiber. And so the longest it is the more the excellence comes from the length of the fiber. So but we are actually also trying to weave things like kapok that has a short fiber. It poses an alternative, more sustainable solution to cotton. So yeah, like Mohsin said, it's super exciting to be in this industry now.
Does linen or flax, how does that compare in the sort of, if you go from cotton to hemp in relation to water use and stuff, where does that sit ecologically speaking, do you think?
It depends on how it's grown. If you grow linen organically, this linen in Italy that I was talking about, then it uses practically just the water from the rain and the sun and no pesticides. But I think compared to hemp would be more or less similar. I don't know if Mohsin agrees. It's cotton that is a really thirsty crop.
Having done lots of research on it, actually the main issue with hemp is the transparency on the stage when they extract the fiber from the bast fiber itself. And there's companies that are doing it mechanically, and there's lots of companies who are doing it chemically. Even though there's been a cradle to cradle gold certification on a lot of these processes, a lot of our Chinese friends in particular, are not being that transparent about it. But saying that, our Pakistani friends who have got all their knowledge from our Chinese friends have said that it's completely fine. So I've yet to visit a cotton gin and I've seen that process firsthand, but I will. I was meant to be going out there during COVID to go to China and Turkey and also to do lots of research on it. But no, there's still a slight grey area, but it's a grey area that will be resolved only for the fact that I won't be producing any fabrics that haven't had the full certification of how they actually do it. But there's companies recycling companies like La Roche who have invented new machinery, and also Toyota in Japan are also inventing new spinning tech. So we're going to be seeing quite a lot of interesting development in the hemp. Linen's had a great head start, but it's been quite stagnant in a way that But again, more development needs to be done on the spinning of linen to make it less scratchy, basically. But it's the same thing with hemp.
Mohsin, can I ask, because you do lots of consultation with different companies, how receptive are they to all your new ideas?
I think I'm one of the guys that's convinced a lot of Pakistani mills to move over to hemp. I should have been getting a cut and all that process, a financial reward for it. But no, for the last 7-8 years, I've been pushing hemp quite heavily in the denim world, and it's only taken off a lot more. But definitely, there's some denim mills that I've said openly that it's because of Mohsin Sajid that we're doing a hemp program. So I believe some people do listen to me now. I've got the platform to do it. So, but I only want to be talking about the positive things. And if there's anything bad about it, I'll openly say it. And even if a company that I'm consulting for, I'll openly diss them if I think they're doing something quite bad. So yeah, so that's how I stand.
Got any more questions?
No.
We might wrap it up a little bit earlier.